Hey, how's it going? I want to share my thoughts on the what's it called? First home loan deposit scheme, which was started on January the 1st, I believe. And essentially, it's designed to make it easier for young Australians or Australians in general in obtaining home ownership. Um, I've had a read through it, and sorry if I'm looking down. I'm going to be reading from my phone. I've got the actual fact sheet here, and I've read over it a couple of times. Um, Before I go on, I just want to stress that these are all my own points of view. Um, they're all just how I view things, how I see things. Um, I'm by no means saying that you should be doing anything that I say. This is just my opinion, one man's opinion, and it's not me telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Um, Also, too, I just want to stress that I'm not against home ownership. I'm not trying to tell you you shouldn't buy a house. I just want to bring a little bit of balance to the conversation when it does come to home ownership. So, the first home loan deposit scheme. I'm going to read through, I guess, the first heading because it just gives you basically the gist of what the scheme is about. So if you just bear with me. So at the top it says, what is the first home loan deposit scheme? And it says the Australian government has introduced the first home loan deposit scheme to support first home buyers to purchase a home sooner. It does this by providing a guarantee that will allow eligible first home buyers to purchase a home with a deposit of as little as 5% without needing to pay for lender's mortgage insurance. The scheme will support up to 10,000 guaranteed loans per financial year from 1st of January 2020. Eligible borrowers can use the guarantee in conjunction with other government programs like the First Home Super Saver Scheme or state and territory first homeowner grants and stamp duty concessions. The guarantee is not a cash payment or a deposit for your home loan. Okay, so that's all I'm going to be reading from the actual fact sheet. It's a pretty easy fact sheet to find. You'll find it through the Australian Government, National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation. That seems to be the picture at the top. So that's the last I'm going to be reading from that. So my thoughts straight off the bat. Um, Actually, I'm going to read something else before I go on because I was reading it and I was thinking to myself, I've seen this before, 5% deposits. And then I started to think, no, like you can actually already purchase a home with as little as 5% deposit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. So we do broker accreditations through different banks. And so I went to one of the banks and they give you, I went in and I did their accreditation and they give you a bit of a fact sheet here. And so I'm just going to read you one of the loan products that this particular bank had. And mind you, this was done, last year, almost even maybe a year and a half ago. And I'll read you this particular loan product. So it says here, maximum LVR 95% plus LMI, capped at 98% inclusive of the LMI. So what it's saying is essentially that you'll be able to purchase a property with a 5% deposit. The only thing is that you'd get the LMI capitalized into a loan. So instead of borrowing 95%, you'd be looking closer to basically a 98% borrow. So when I see the scheme, the only difference between this scheme and I guess that particular loan product, which quite a few banks were actually offering and still are offering, the only difference is the LMI. So the LMI is capitalized into the loan with this product, but with the first home, the deposit scheme, whatever it's called, it's waived. So essentially, you still have to save up 5%. With the banks, you still have to show genuine 5% savings. So, so that's where I'm a little bit confused, and I don't know whether that's lack of understanding from the general public, or a lack of conveying the message or conveying the loan products from brokers or the banks. I think it might be a little bit of a mix of both, because I obviously understood that there was already banks willing to accept 5% deposits, but it seems like the general public didn't know, because they've taken to this scheme like it's sort of second coming of Jesus type thing. They're just lauding it, you know. And then, so then my mind starts heading in other directions with this particular scheme and the topic of home ownership for young Australians, or Australians in general, the dream of the great Australian dream of owning a home. And when schemes like this come along, where it's designed to essentially help um, people get into home ownership, my mind then starts to think whether or not we are creating a little bit of entitlement. Um, it seems to be a word that gets thrown around quite a bit these days, the idea of entitlement. And I think that this is a form of entitlement, and it's almost like now we're coming to a point where now um, home buyers are like almost going to expect some sort of help along the way. Um, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Personally, as I said, my personal point of view, I think I think all it's going to do is just going to continue to make um, it's going to continue to make home ownership unobtainable, because obviously the more it's supply and demand, that the more that people are buying, obviously the less supply that's going to be, that's going to drive up property prices. So the thought that I had, which would not look, this would not be a very popular opinion, but as I said, it's my opinion, and I'm not saying it's the right thing to be, I guess, talking about. But one of the best ways to make home ownership affordable, in my opinion, is to make it essential that borrowers are to borrow to save up 20% deposit. And I know what you're thinking. That's impossible. Some areas, property prices are like $1 million, $2 million, and yes, it is a lot of money. But let's look at it this from this point of view. If you have home buyers that have to save up 20%, it means that they're going to take a lot longer to save up a deposit. So what happens if a whole bunch of home buyers aren't buying property because they're taking their time to save up a 20% deposit? What's going to happen to property prices? They're going to start dropping because no one's going to be buying. You get what I mean? As I said, that's not that will not be a very popular opinion, but um, I see it as a better way than, I guess, trying to create this entitlement where we feel as though we have to help people out in order just to buy a house. And I'm now going to go to like another way that I think um, when you do watch the news, when you do see home buyers that are wanting help to buy a house, and then you see some of the things that are happening in Australia, bushfires, the effect that a lot of these people are having, and then you think these people need help. So my mind starts to think, well, there's help and then there's help. I mean, on one hand, with the bushfires and that, they need help because their lives have changed forever. On the other side, you have home buyers who are wanting to help in order to purchase a property they can't afford. So, as I said, the way I sort of view things would be a lot different to how I feel a lot of other people would be viewing home ownership. As I said, I'm not against home ownership, but when I look at when I look at the first home, hold on, I just want to get this right. The first home loan deposit scheme. Yeah, I just can't help but feel that we may be creating a little bit more entitlement. And as I said, the scheme itself, um, at the end of the day, if people feel as though it helps them to get home ownership, which is what they really want, then you know, really can only be a good thing. If people are able to get the things that make them happy, then I'm all for it. I'm all for people, buying things that make them happy. But I still am skeptical from and from I guess what this may look like later on down the track and what would be the next level. I mean, are we going to come to a point where you know people won't even need deposits for a house? They just need to show that they can pay the mortgage, and then that's about it. And it's one thing that I'm big on is saving for the things that you want. And we're really starting to get away from the idea of sort of working hard, sacrificing, saving to get the things you want. Now we're sort of getting into a point where if there's something you want, you can get it straight away. There's credit cards, personal loans, and now if you want to get a house, hey, the government's going to help you. Look, it's just my point of view, my perspective. It's probably not going to be very popular opinion, but it's how I feel deep down when it comes to home ownership and the idea that we're sort of creating that home ownership is something that you should be striving for, you should be aspiring for, because as I've said in previous videos, home ownership isn't for everybody. And once again, one of the things I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to demonize home ownership. All I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to bring a little bit of balance to the conversation, because at the moment it's more more for one side saying, hey, home ownership is like what you need to be doing, and we're gonna do all we can to help you get into it. So anyway, that's my sort of take on the sorry, the first home loan deposit scheme. Um, Look, let me know what you think. I mean, if you wanna go off at me, feel free to. I'm more than understand where you're probably going to be coming from. But look, that's just my take on it, my point of view. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon.